going to go to, all right, there we go. It's on live now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to my desktop. And then I'm going to bring up the Presentain. Okay, so, okay, there we go. All right, so yeah, I need to update this picture at least, but this
Yeah,
is my
you look very
website.
different.
a little bit. So this is my website, and it has a lot of information on it. I like to share as much information as I have. So this information, I have a ton of stuff on iBooks Author that we go over, but also on PBL, English resources, all that. I also co-host and co-created iBooks Chat. So I have archives of iBooks Chat on there, and so it's has a lot. All right, so starting off, and let me see, I got some dings. Okay, so first of all, the reason why I got into iBooks Author is because, you know, I kind of saw as literature as a conversation. You know, it's, you start off, you have novels, and novels are really products of their time. It takes all the different ideas, all the different hopes, dreams, and kind of funnels it into this product. And then that product, you know, speaks to that particular author. But what ends up happening is that the more time goes on, the less it really speaks to that generation. So there's more of a distance as we go on. And that's important because a lot of people think that all you need for a message to get across is, you know, you need just a speaker and a listener, but that doesn't quite work. Instead, you need not just a speaker and a listener, but you need to take into account the reality, all the experiences around each person, and then the shared space that connects them. And then the larger the shared space, the more that message can get across. Well, since novels are like a conversation and it's having a conversation with the reader, then the more distance passes between those different ideas, illusions, then this happens. You have the speaker, you have the novel, and you have a message that's trying to get across, but you have a smaller shared space. So then that leads to more frustration and boredom on the part of students. And that leads to a failure in communication. Now, that's really sad because literature is mankind's heart and soul. So essentially all of our dreams, problems, hopes are all recorded in it. But we have a lot of really great ideas in literature, and it isn't always coming across. So we need to look at technology as kind of like the Rosetta Stone to help our students bridge the gap. Now, I first started using iBooks Author because I saw that communication. So if I travel back in time, this is me. These are my students. These are my students telling me that what we're reading in class they already read back in middle school. And this is my reaction. And then here's my solution. I'm going to spend all my time and resources with the majority of kids, and then I'm going to go ahead and let those smart kids who want another challenge, they just get a study guide. They're going to read together, get a study guide, and that didn't really work. So I needed a solution to where I could still give them my time and resources without sacrificing the majority over there or without sacrificing the minority over here. So I needed to be able to find a way to differentiate. And that's really hard to do because even the brightest kids, they still need guidance into the work. So with iBooks Author, I started off with a really stupid idea. I'm going to take a book, Moby Dick, and I'm going to start off with that. And the problem is that whenever you start off with something like this and you're kind of learning the ropes, you don't want it to be one of the, you know, most massive classics in American literature. So the way I was trying to do this was I wanted to make Moby Dick accessible, because here we have an American classic, and it's one of the best American books in my opinion, and it isn't always taught. And it isn't always taught because people see it as too inaccessible. So I wanted to work on that. So I added widgets in there. So I would have a summary at the beginning of the chapter, so students would get an overview. You can see the words that are in bold, and those are vocab words. So if you press on it, then the definition pops up. Now I also added study guide pop-up questions, to where if you press it, you have a study guide question there, so then you know the answers in that paragraph, so it helps direct the students. And then I would add vocabulary quizzes at the end. Then I could add extra information, to where if I wanted kids to know more about Machiavelli, then I could have little browser widgets in there. And the cool thing about the browser widget is that it keeps them inside the iBook. So then you don't have to worry about them checking Twitter or going off on some other tangents or clicking here or there. So they still stay within the book and you have all the information there. Now, another problem was I really wanted them to see kind of the grandeur, just how big and massive these whales are. But a lot of people, they look at a picture and then they move on. So I wanted a way to kind of slowly reveal it. So I used a Bookry app called Reveal, and that way they could scratch off and see it progress. Wow. Now, I first started this, but then after I did this, I saw a really awesome example from somebody else, and I'll show you that one.
This is my latest Japantown, Portland project. Contemporary photos in what's Old Town Portland, but what was Japantown. And I've got under them historic images in the same locations. And this will be in the form of an iBook, an interactive iBook, where you can sort of paint this in, look at the historic image. You can reveal the entire historic image. You can hide it, and you can...
So that's really cool. And you can imagine like doing that for a history project, about having kids line up between, you know, a picture of a historic house or building and then earlier depictions of it, or like when it was being constructed, and kind of having that reveal process in there. And then also at the end of each chapter, I would put reviews. So I would have a slideshow gallery. I could have video clips. I could add one of the biggest things about Moby Dick that people would skip would be the whaling chapters. So I found a great way to have that information without making it like an encyclopedia. So I used the browser app again. And then in here, they get all the same information, just in a more graphic, accessible kind of way. And then with glossaries, I could add the definitions. Then I could even theme it to where in the glossary, they would all go together, because there's a lot of nautical terms, a lot of religious allusions, and that way they could kind of all be together so they can access it later. So the next one was Call the Wild. Started off with a summary at the beginning. The widgets, the pop-up widgets, they can change shapes, so depending on the picture that you put with it, so it would have it fit with the novel. And there's the vocab popping up. And then here I have the questions, and then here with vocab review, I found a better way of doing it. So I would make a sentence quiz, and then I would save that as a picture, and then put the picture in, and then have the vocab words be the labels. And that was a way to where if I'm presenting this in front of class, which is how I started with this, to where I would just have my MacBook and my iPad. And I would just mirror my I'd mirror my iPad onto my MacBook, which was connected to the projector. So this way, like when I'd have quizzes come up, I would give out the kids whiteboards and markers, and then they would write what the answer is and hold it up. And then that was a way to bring in the class. Then with The Great Gatsby, I found a lot of really cool information in here. So when I was digging in the book, it actually made me a better reader and therefore a better teacher. So I was wondering when I was reading this, because he said that he graduated from New Haven. And I'd never heard of a school called New Haven before. So I looked it up, and New Haven is Yale. And the thing is, like, I'm going to be presenting at Harvard. You have to know that I'm telling every single person I know, hey, I'm presenting at Harvard. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. And here he graduates from Yale, and he actually downplays it. The only people who would know that New Haven meant Yale would be other Ivy Leaguers. So whereas Nick Carraway in here, he's downplay it, everybody else is exaggerating their wealth, exaggerating their importance. So this little small bit here actually reveals his character. And that's not something that I caught when I was just kind of more casually reading it or even annotating it. So a lot of these study guide questions, it comes from the perspective of me trying to predict what questions students would have, and then to put in all that extra information. Now, the great thing too is that I can have any kind of correlating video that ties into it. So here I found a clip from Does Money Make You Mean? And these were experiments where they figured out that the more advantages someone has financially, actually the meaner of a person they are and the more rules they break. They feel like they're more entitled to things. And in this particular chapter, it makes perfect sense. So we can watch this video clip and then we can talk about how it's applicable to the characters there. Okay, then I could also take, with just the gallery, I could take screenshots of the movie, and then I put it in there, and then I can say to the kids, okay, what's happening here, what's happening here, what's happening here. So it's a great visual way to review it without just watching the movie. And then I also have the review questions at the end. Okay, then the problem is that a lot of kids haven't seen a 1920s car. So then by embedding 3D objects, I can press on that, and then I can give them a more visual way of kind of thinking about that time period. With Animal Farm, I had the pop-up questions, so the pop-up widgets, but here I put a different picture in each one. So the one with the mini Joseph Stalin, that is correlating to the actual historical part, because Animal Farm is a parable about the Russian Revolution. And then the little stars are questions that correspond with the actual story. So just with the pop-up widgets, you're able to, even differentiate with that. And then I don't want to watch the whole movie. I just want to show them little clips of it, because the movie version of this is terrible. And it was actually funded by the CIA, the cartoon one. So here I'm able to put in clips. That way the kids can discuss, what it is, what's different. And then I don't have to, bring up the URL, or I don't have to put in the DVD and get to that one specific spot, because it's already there for me. And so here are the pop-ups. Okay, and then at the end of each chapter, I can have an overall summary or a comparison between Animal Farm and communism. And then with Night, I also have the study guide questions. And here I found out that I could put pictures inside my pop-ups. So then if we're talking about a particular camp, then they can see exactly where that is on the map. And that saves me time from having to look it up, switch to computer while we're reading. Okay, then I can also add 3D models of the different concentration camps. With the gallery, I found Holocaust pictures that corresponded with what was going on in the chapter. Then I could add in video clips for psychological comparisons, and then add more 3D models. But then with Death of a Salesman, this is the one that I had the most trouble with, or as far as I had the biggest problem, because this was something that was particularly difficult. And the whole idea about me making multi-touch books of these different books is that I need to address a problem. I need to find a way to make something more accessible. How can iBooks author help present a play where the main character has Alzheimer-type symptoms and flits in and out of time periods? So the main character, who has essentially what appears to be Alzheimer's, he is talking in the present, but there are these characters that he sees in the past. And it doesn't always say, okay, now he's talking to characters who aren't visible. And the characters around him aren't really sure what's going on. He'll interrupt a conversation that he's having with current characters to talk to characters in the past. And so it can be really confusing to students. There's another teacher in my department who was teaching this, and she was really frustrated. She said she and her students were lost, and they didn't really figure out what was going on until they watched the movie version of it. And she swore that she was never going to teach this unit again. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I did differently in just a second, but first, I also have the images off to the side. I have the pop-ups there. And then you'll notice at the very bottom, I have a key. And that key is to what I ended up doing. So instead of adding a special widget, I just color-coded when he's talking to characters who aren't really there. And then when he's having a flashback, I have it in green. And at one point, he actually has a flashback within a flashback. Then with the pop-ups, I could also add inflation. So he ends up at first saying that he made $2,000 and his wife is really, really happy. But then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, no, I really meant that I made, $200. And so there's a really big difference. But today that doesn't sound as bad with that amount of money. But then if you look at how much that would be inflated to, it's a big deal. All right, so widgets. We have the basic widgets there. There are a number of bookery widgets that you can choose. So if you go online, there's a lot of different options and it's really easy to make. Then you can also go and create your own. So using iAd Producer, you can go through and you can you get a setup like this, and then you can embed Google Forms, Nearpod, TouchCast. Oh, I misspelled that. So you can add a lot of really cool things with that. And when I had the quizzes that I showed you earlier in the book, those were more formative. And so it was more just kind of to give them a sense of where they were at. If you embed a Google form, then you make it summative, because the results that they have on the quiz will go immediately to your Google Drive. So then you can have their name, you can have the results to each of the questions, and then you can input it that way. So there's a lot of options on different things that you can do. And I also figured out for ThingLink, you can create thing links and go like that. So now let's put on here a poll question. All right, so what is your favorite iBooks author feature? And is that showing up on yours?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay.
So I just pick one of them?
Just pick one.
I think the pop-up study guide questions.
That's been a pretty big favorite. So let me see. Then, oh, and by the way too, if you ever have a question using Presentain, if you go to the dashboard and do the, I think it says post a question, then the questions will always pop up here. And then if you just send me a random one, I can click on it, which is really handy when you have a large audience. So then you can click on the questions and then I can show the question up on the board. So then everybody sees
that says Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to put that in?
It hasn't shown up on mine yet. So if you type in a question,
but do you want me to do that?
Yeah, go ahead. It's a cool little presentation tool, and it's actually free too. It's a free tool as long as you only have 3 polls and 3 slide casts. but I was able to talk to them and say that, I was presenting a lot, and I was, telling a lot of people about this. So they ended up giving me an upgraded one for a year. So,
Oh, wow.
so yeah, it's always good to kind of show it off. Okay, now let me see if it shows. Okay, what it's showing on the screen right now is I made an interactive thing with Tumult Hype. And so here I can add all of my different grammar types. So then if a student presses on a particular part, it'll not only say whether it's correct or incorrect, but why. And then I could add videos in there. That way students can have more information. So a student might go through and watch, and I have it on fast forward, but a student can go through and they can watch more information on it. And then they can go back to the lessons and then get more individualized instruction. So that's a cool thing that I've been working on with that. Now, you mentioned earlier about having students work together. So this is one project that I had them do, and this was at the end of the semester. And what I did with this is that we were doing Animal Farm. And with Animal Farm, it's over the Russian Revolution, but in a parable kind of form. So I had them do three things with it. One, I had them do a summary over the Russian Revolution. The second one, I had them do a summary over Animal Farm. And the third one that I had them do was create their own society. So then after they did all that, I had them put it into Book Creator. So we have a cart of iPads for my department, and then they would work together. They'd put the projects together, they'd put it into Book Creator, and then they'd airdrop Book Creator to my MacBook. And then when I have these, I took the very best ones out of it, and then I put it all together in one cumulative one. So since I was able to import Book Creator right into iBooks Author, then I could just cut and paste the different videos that were good for each one. And then with Animal Farm, for this one, for the Russian Revolution, I had them do the format in whatever way. They could act it out, they could talk in front of it, they could use Adobe Voice. They had free reign of any of the apps. Now with the Animal Farm one, I told them that they had to do green screen. So we had the app Do Ink by Green Screen on there. So they would record it, they'd have a green screen, and then I'd give them animal crackers. Yeah. And so with the animal crackers, they ended up tying on like a green string around the animals, and then they could move it. There were a couple of groups who did motion capture. They posed them, took a picture, moved them again, and they did that all the way through. So I actually had a lot of creativity in how they were putting all that together. Okay, then I did, let me see, yeah, I did Shakespeare process, and I do Shakespeare a little bit differently. So I wanted to kind of illustrate this, and these books are also on the iTunes store for free if you ever want to download them. So on here, I started off to give the students a choice. They could either go through and convert a popular song into a sonnet, or they could do Shakespearean Yo Mama jokes. And I had a different form if they were to basically choose either one that went into the language. So it would say, this is what this insult is, this is what this insult is, and then they could string it together. So that's the first part about getting them used to the language. Then I ended up having them act it out. And when they acted it out, they could go through and they could either do vines. So that sounds really easy to where they just act it out for 7 seconds, but it was actually really difficult. And the ones who did vines ended up spending the same amount of time as those people who completely acted out the scenes, because they had to keep whittling it down and whittling it down. Then I had Poetry Out Loud. And so for Poetry Out Loud, they had a few different options, or not different options, different tasks. So one thing they did is they analyzed a poem. So they analyzed a poem and then they presented it and they went from the website. So on here, I have different YouTube videos of it. And then I have a widget to where, you know, just asking which one do you think won that particular competition. So we went from class to building and then to a regional area competition. And then I also had students who submitted poetry. So I had some poetry that was in there, some analysis. And so it was a really cool overall project. Now, these next ones, what it does is it just goes through on how you build it step by step. And this is all in the slide thing, so you can see that if you sign up for it to be sent to you. And so on here, I just break it down as far as, you know, first getting the text, going through, you know, you put it either in Pages or in Word, and then you open up iBooks Author, you import it in, and then it goes through, you know, getting pictures, adding all those different parts in, and then just continuing going on, adding more, adding pop-ups, and any other basic widgets that you might need.
And I'm sorry, this is for like inputting a book, like when you did Animal Farm and things like that?
Right, right. And so that's just a basic quick one. And then you can always go through those slides more individually. And what do you teach?
I teach everything. I'm a 6th grade and it's, I'm self-contained. So I teach everything except PE and math. And I could see this being really beneficial, especially because we do Treasure Island. And that one's a difficult one for the kids. So I would love to do something like this with Treasure Island.
Yeah, it's really cool for that end. And also, there's a good application for science.
Okay.
So on this one, I had, this isn't from me. This is from somebody else who was using, I think they actually used Book Creator, possibly for this one. They put it together. But they had students do this when they were looking up sharks.
Do you want to know something? Us sharks really get a bad rap. Well, me and my buddies are here today to show you that we are not such bad fellows, and that we should be more afraid of you than you are afraid of us. Please page through this book and learn something.
And
you want to know something? Us sharks really get a bad rap.
No, okay, there we go. So what this teacher ended up doing was he assigned different sharks to different students. So then the students would go through and they would draw out the shark, and then they would do a video, and the video.
I'm Tommy Tiger Shark.
They would talk more about it.
Near the bottom of the sea.
And yeah, I just think that's adorable.
It's so cute.
Yeah, they go through, and there's really a lot of different applications that you can have for putting all of it together. So Book Creator is a really good way to put it from the student end. And so when, so I mentioned that I did it with my students for the Animal Farm project. So it works really well with projects and getting it together. If you have a set of Macs, then you can always do, like, one thing I was thinking about doing was like for the workshops, basically getting them together, getting teachers together, and then having them tackle a common issue or theme, and then kind of break up the widgets among the teachers and then putting it together. So you can assign different basic widgets that they work on, and have them each responsible, and then airdrop that to each other.
Good truck food.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Yes, it is.
Having fun?
Mm-hmm. So, let me see. All right, we have, let me see. All right, the other thing that I'd like to show you is we have this. All right, so are you seeing my Google Drive pop up?
Yes.
All right, so it's extremely disorganized, but it just goes on and on and on. But one cool thing that I have on here is I have this to where I've been partnering up with other teachers, and I've been trying to get as many who use iBooks Author to get onto the share folder, and then we can share not just the finished books that you would open up an iPad, but the original iBooks Author files. So that way, let's say that if someone has, like I have all mine on here, so if someone has Lure the Flies that they want to do, but they want to add in different questions, they want to add in different pop-up study guides, they want to add in different video clips, then they can bring that up and then they can change it to fit their class.
Wow.
So that's the overall goal. Because when I do iBooks Author, the big goal of it, thank you. The big goal of it is to be able to differentiate for your class. And the only way, like to meet that original vision, is that you have to have enough books for a higher end and a lower end, right? Mm-hmm. So, but each book takes quite a while to put together. So, but if you have more teachers on board who use it and you can collaborate with, then the more people that you have to really share that differentiation process. And so the goal is to get as many people as possible into creating this. And that's one reason why, you know, I speak to different schools and I try to get other people involved as much as possible. Okay, now, another thing that I can show you is with mythology. There's another similar kind of problem that I had with this, and that I needed to kind of bring kids in. So some kids love mythology, some have a little bit more trouble with it. And then just talking about, you know, hero cycle, and then I found videos that could go through and discuss it way better than I could. So it's a really cool way of kind of finding the best information and putting it together. And then just talking about Greek mythology, finding good sources to go along with it. And then I don't want to spend forever, you know, before I go into the Odyssey talking about the Trojan War, when I can find videos that do it way better than I could. And then I go through, I have my pop-ups. I can add vocab at the very beginning. So that way I can preview all the words that are going to be in that particular chapter, all the important words. So that way vocabulary isn't a big hurdle. And then I can also have those words at the end. That way it'll be a review. Add 3D objects. And there's an app that I really liked, but I didn't want to bring up the app every single time. So what I did was I did a screencast of me playing with the app. And then that way I could just press over here and have it play to augment what's going on in the chapter without taking the time to set aside and just having more transition time. So that was a really cool way of still incorporating it, but making it more manageable. And the coolest thing that I added in here was this particular widget right here. And there's a similar one on Bookery called Before and After. This one is from Book Widgets. And the cool thing about this is that I can just slide over and go like that. And I found this image right here about Odysseus's journey, But just looking at it, some kids may not immediately notice that that's the Mediterranean. They may discount and just think like, oh, that's a cartoony place. And then by adding the map in to overlay it, they can kind of more see the journey throughout. So, and that's a really simple thing to put together and build. And then you add the vocab review at the end. So overall, that's how I use iBooks Author in class. I use a lot of teacher-created work, and I do that to help the students go through. And I find that's really helpful. The students, when I do that, I give them the choice of having a hard book or watching the screen. When I did just have the one iPad and the one MacBook, and the kids invariably watched the screen, and they ended up finding that it was very useful. The Death of a Salesman play that the other class from the other teacher had a lot of problems with, they had no issues in my class. They understood what was going on. The color coding was extremely helpful.
Yeah.
And they got, because of that, they were able to get, the sense of this guy, losing everything and, talking about the American dream. So because they could get the basic level, that meant that they were freed up to start going up Bloom's taxonomy. But if they were struggling down here, there's no way that they were going to get the upper level. And then by adding, the definitions in there, some people may say, you need to have the students look it up. But then if you do that, then it's taking them away from the story and it's distracting them, or possibly even worse, they just completely skip over the words and miss the meaning. Mm-hmm. And so you add all this content in there, and it's less distracting rather than more distracting. So with Of Mice and Men, I did it with that. And there's one particular part when we used to read it and have it before I started to make the multi-touch books over it. There's this one part where they're talking about a whorehouse, and these guys are going in, and then it mentions a Cupid doll lamp. And then kids, their minds, they immediately go to dirty places with Cupid doll lamp, and they're wondering what it is. And by the time I go to look up what it is, then the kids are completely off topic. So they start off with that, focusing on what it is, and then they just kind of snowballs from there. So this was a way, when I have Of Mice and Men, I just put the picture off to the side to where you can press it, and all it is it's a doll lamp. It's just a doll that's turned into a lamp, and that's it. And just being able to just quickly press that takes 2 seconds out of class versus the minutes that it took otherwise. And then you have to get them back on track and get them back in. But also I found out that I could add audio in it. So there are way better speakers than me. And with Knight, there's a speaker with a slight Yiddish accent. So he could actually pronounce the names of the towns and people correctly, whereas I would stumble through it. And then with Great Gatsby, the narrator had this slight arrogant tone when he was speaking, or not arrogant, but uber educated tone. And so it fit the character even more. So, and the thing with that is that, one, if I didn't want to lose my voice for a day, or if I wanted to kind of take a break from speaking, then it was a really cool way to add that in. But also, by just differentiating, if I had the students read the chapter on their own, there are going to be some students who struggle reading the words individually. But then if I have the audio, then they can just plug in, they can listen to it and follow along as they go. And it actually helped a lot of struggling readers. Some of them, the audio one was their best feature because they would struggle to read it by themselves. So that's kind of everything that we have here. Is I use it primarily for teacher created. And if you look at a SAMR model, the S is substitution, the A is augmentation. So even though there's a lot of work in these books, it still just really gets you to that A, the augmented part. In order to move even more, up there to the modification, the redefine, that's really more the student creations, about involving them in the process. And so I start off with the teacher created. I'm trying to move a bit more into the student created side going from here on. So do you have any questions at all?
Yes. Now, your class, you have a set of the MacBooks? Do you have MacBooks so each kid gets to look at it, or?
Well, what I do is that we're still lower in on the tech side, so we're still kind of mainly a PC school. All of the Apple technology, or most of the Apple technology, came from me writing grants and getting in. So first I got 2 MacBooks for teacher use, and then I got 3 iPad carts, and along with 2 more MacBooks. So as of right now, what I'll do is I'll create the books on my MacBook, and then I'll put them on the iPads,
right.
and then the student can access it that way.
Okay. Now, do they take the iPads home, or is this just something that you do in school and then they take the book home and read?
Oh, I would never trust them with that. No, yeah, with so we have the iPads, but it's just a department set. So we have 3, and the other departments at school are kind of jealous because we do just have those just for our department. But I end up using a lot, and the other teachers are starting to get into it. But what I want to start doing, because I'll have it be where I'll print off guides for them, or not guides, but I'll print off different chapters, and I'll have that in there. What I want to do is I want to start either adding augmented reality, and then putting that into where, if they hold their phone over it, then different things will pop up. Or what might be easier is iBooks Author, you can now make EPUBs. And there's some cool things that you can do with the EPUB. You can embed video, you can embed different HTML objects in there. So like you can embed, ThingLink doesn't work, and TouchCast doesn't work, but you can embed some things. You can do HTML hype. You can create your own animations, put that in there. You can do slideshows. You can do, you can't do quiz questions though, and you can't do some of the other things. And Bookry is kind of hit or miss. So there's no perfect solution for that just yet, as far as to send work with the kids, unfortunately.
Okay. And I would really like to try and make some sort of like Treasure Island. How do you download that book? There were the slide presentation that you had that kind of walked you through that. How do I get that?
Oh, are you talking about, oh wait, you can't see my screen.
I want to know how to do this from the very beginning. I mean.
Right. Okay, so are you talking about, let me see right here. All right. Are you talking about this one when I was going through on the different widgets?
I think so. I guess my question is like, how do I start this? How would I start to do a Treasure Island book? How do you download or upload, that whole entire book so that you can start doing things like that?
Okay. So if we were, so let me go back to the Presentain. All right. So when we had, no, I did that wrong. Sorry. I needed to control it on my iPad. One sec. Will it go back? No. Okay. All right. If you, on the slides that I was going through earlier, there's a few things on there. Okay, so there's a few things on there to where like the first step for Treasure Island is to go to Gutenberg. If you go to gutenbergproject.org, I believe, it has a number of public domain text, and you can just either, it gives you options about downloading it in Word, getting the in the HTML, so getting it on the website with all the text. Then you just copy it, and then after that, you can put it into Word or Pages, and you can break it up by chapter. So I can show you.
And it was Gutenberg, what? Gutenberg?
Gutenberg Project.
Project.
And then if I open up, so like I can open up iBooks Author right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first thing that I do is I just choose a template. And this one is always my favorite. No particular reason. I just love the picture. So so it starts us off on here. And then if we look over here, we can go to Insert Pages.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also go to Insert Chapter from Pages or Word document.
Okay.
So you don't want to have like every single chapter all in the same Word document. You would break it up.
Right.
And then you put that in there, and then it just imports all the text, and that's it. And then when you want to, like you mentioned that you really love the pop-up study guides. So when you go to the pop-up study guide, you just go to widgets, you go to pop over right here, and then this pops up. So with this, you can add a picture in there, so you can make it like a little island or a little ship, and then you can just repeat that throughout. You can add your question over here, but then notice how the text bends around it. Okay. So I don't always like that because I want it to be kind of off to the side. So then if I click Inspector, then this all pops up. And so it's just broken up into, this one deals with alignment. So if I select this, then I can say, does not cause the object to wrap, and it's going to be free floating, so I can move it around. And then this controls text options. This has to do with color, especially if it's a picture or another widget and you're going to have a border. You go to different ones. So like, let's say if I wanted to be a hyperlink and I want to go to something else, I can click that. I can put in the URL. And then this one, this very last one, deals like if you have questions or if you have a slideshow. So you can add the different widgets in like there. And then if I have a quiz, I just select that. I add my options. So over here, I have this. I can say how many I need. I can add a question, and the different question types are over here. So the vocab that I showed earlier, where I had the picture in there.
Right, you drag the label.
Right, but unfortunately you have to have a picture, so you can't have text here. So that's the reason why I had to do it as a Word document, have sentence completion, and then save that as a picture, and then drag that in. Oh, so it's just one extra step, but it's not too bad. And then here, I did this one when I had the Poetry Out Loud performances, and I wanted to say, you know, who did a better job, and then I would do a screenshot of the different videos. And then that way you can just press the screenshot, so it's more visual in this way. And then these two right here would kind of be like, let's say that you have a skeleton, and on that skeleton you have circled one part, and then the question could be, what bone is this? And then you have the multiple choice options. Okay. So yeah, so there's a lot of different options with that. So, and that's in the widgets. So the interactive image, that one you just basically have a picture, and let's say it's a big class photo and you want to have every person's name, and you want to have it to where you click on the person and then their name pops up, then that's kind of interactive one, but that's a little bit tricky for me. I'm not as happy with that. Keynote, you can do hyperlinks with Keynote. So just like with normal, and then you can import that in, and then you have your own animated widget, kind of basically. 3D objects, that one is really cool, and it really doesn't take that much work. So all that you do is you bring up, you download SketchUp, which is free. It's from Google. And we're just going to delete that person. And then we're going to go through and you just go to 3D Warehouse and you can type up whatever you need. So if it's Treasure Island and you're looking for let's try deserted. Okay, so if I want a 3D object of one of these, then let's say I really like this one. All right, and we're gonna click OK. And then so somebody else did this work, but they put it down for free. So then you can have that. And then I can go up here and I can go to export. And I go to export as a 3D model. And then this is the file type that you need, so it's already automatic. And I can just type in island. And then once I do that, I'm having it saved to my desktop. And then I bring this up. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I really want to show off to everybody. And I want them to think like I'm this really awesome person and I did all this. So I'll just put an island in there. And that's it. And then when you're on the iPad, you just press that and then you can turn around and zoom in.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, there's a lot of really cool things. And the whole 3D objects, that's really good for kind of more of those tactile learners or those spatially aware kind of students who kind of more easily learn from that. So there's a lot of different options. And then if you're like really big into style and you want everything to match, you just go to the inspector, you press this little thing, you can say, okay, I want to color fill it, and then you can select the different color, or you can do this eyedropper, and let's say that you want to match that right there, so then you can do that, and you can move on, and you're like, nah, I don't really want the picture frame, let's change that, we'll do that. That kind of works a little bit better. So there's a ton of options that are already in here, even without going to Bookery. And Bookery is really easy to work with. And then you download the widget, and then you just put the widget in. So Bookery is really easy. The iAdd and the Tumult height. Yeah, Bookery. So if I go to, here we go. Wait. No, that's not it. Where did, okay. So if I go to Bookery, all right, so I'm gonna go to, and this is really easy to work with. I go to my bookshelf and I'm gonna click on new book. I'm gonna just type in whatever the name is, go to create, and then I'm gonna click on add a widget. And then these are all the different options. So these are all HTML widgets. You don't have to do anything really fancy with it. So I showed you the reveal. So if I do that, I just select that. And the way that person did the historical before and after is that here, this is going to be the image underneath the scratching. And then over here, this is going to be the image above that. So like for the Odyssey one, if I wanted to have that map there with Odysseus' journey here, and then over here, I had the actual map. I just select the image, put in there, and then I just download it. Then it'll pop up into my downloads, and I just drag it into the book, and that's it.
Wow.
So it's really easy. It gives you a ton of functionality. And later on, when you're ready, there's iAdd and there's Tumult Hype. And that's just when you get a little bit further into the process. So when I have, so that's like on some of the essentials, just getting the text, putting that in. And then this part that I put together that I showed you a little bit earlier, this one, so the intermediate, that deals with adding the 3D, which I just showed you. It's really easy. Doing the drag and drop quiz. Going to Bookery, you just put those different things in, and you select, add the different pictures. And so here's an example of this slide one. Oh, wait, it's over here. Okay, so this is just from the other way. And all I did was I just added those 2 pictures. And then here's my reveal one. Same concept.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of cool things that you can do. And that's with Bookery. And then when you get to the more advanced level, there's dragging keynotes. I add producer. You just drop in different things. Here there's a TouchCast, and TouchCast are interactive videos. You can still keep all that in, adding in Google Forms. That way you can have the those summative kind of assessments. Thing link, to where if I click on that, then yes. All right. So if I click on that, I have, well, I'm still kind of testing this out because I'm still in the process of making it, so I was happy. But you can add in video, you can add in text. So let's say that you're doing a unit on penguins and you have a thing link that you already made on it, then you can go ahead and just embed the thing link in there. And the reason why that's useful is that you don't have to leave the book. And the less time that you have to leave the book, that saves you time, and also saves you class time, and also saves from any other distractions. And then you can also do with iAd Producer, you can do a really cool thing like this to where, oh no, why did you do that? I hate when you're showing something off and then it quits on you. Kind of ruins the magic appeal. All right, so here we have, all right, so here I have a thing link. And with iAd Producer, you can also add different cool little things. So let's say that I want to add a drawing pad off to the side for some weird reason, or like, you know, to take notes, although I can't really take notes with that. I'm just doing this for effect. So, and then you can add an erase button, and then you can have a next page. Wait, is that going to work? Ah, come on, man. I built you to work. All right, so in theory, what I had with this is that if I press the next page, it would trigger the next page, which would be a Google form. So if, let's say on this, I had on the, I think it's thinking. I think that's the problem. So on this thing link, I had all the different things with cheetahs, and then it would take you, like on the next page, you could see the Google form of it. And yeah, I told my kids a joke that I thought was incredibly original at the time, but then I found out that other people had said it. It's a cheetah and a lion are playing checkers, and the lion says to the cheetah, "You're a cheetah," and the cheetah says, "You lion." So, but yeah, you can also add Padlets, and to Hype, you can add different interactive elements to it. So there's a lot of really cool things. So, you know, you said that you taught everything. So if you just look at, this was from Anthony Delore, who does an amazing job. He knows a ton on iBooks author. So you can add a home button to give you information. You can have a watch.
We've talked about these.
So you can go into more detail. You can add a quiz to a set. And then you can add that individualized instruction off over here. So Simul Hype is, there is a bit of a learning curve, but once you get it, there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with it. So when you're ready, I can send you the workbook, and have that in. I'm not ready, or I'm not finished with it yet. There's still some other things I need to add, like I'm book creator, app smashing, also just like style and design. So there's a number of different things that I want to add to that.
Yeah,
But
definitely interested in the workbook.
yeah, and the Google the Google Drive, the share folder, I can also add you on that. So on Twitter, my Twitter name is @JabelPepper.
Yeah,
So,
we're friends.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, if you send me your Gmail on there, then I can go ahead and add you to the share folder, and just make sure it's a Gmail. For some reason, other emails don't quite work, because then you have to get permission. It's a little bit trickier. So just send me your Gmail. I'll add an invitation for you on that. And it looks like there was another viewer, but just send me that, and then I'll go ahead and put you on. You can go through the folder, and eventually when you make your own, you can start to put that work in there as well.
Okay, so the folder that you're going to share with me is like the books that you've done, so that I can see an example?
Yes. So all the books I've done except the workbook so far are all in that share folder. So including the interactive grammar one, and the student project ones, and all of the teacher resource ones, those are all in there.
So how do I view them? Do I just click on them, and then do I have to put them into iBooks Author, or do I have to?
Yeah, so let me show you. All right, so when I bring it up, if I bring it up online on the web, then I get a different view. So let's say that if I go right here, and I'll go to my Google Drive. Okay, so if I open it up, then I go to any of these, then I get these things like that. And then if I click on that, then I'll get a kind of weird list of kind of items that are included in it.
Yes.
Which really doesn't do you any good.
No.
So, but the thing is that if your Google Drive is hooked up to your computer, then this is what you can see instead. So then if I open this up and I go to these, instead of seeing that, then I see the actual files. And I just click on that, and then it brings up the actual iBook author file. And then you can open it up. So for me, when I'm going through the file, and so there it just pops up. If I'm going through the file, I click on my Google Drive over here rather than going online and doing it that way. So this way I have all of those files.
How did you get to that screen? Because I think you've sent me this file, but when I look at it, it was just like what you showed me before. It's just like that list of, and I don't know how to open it the other way.
Okay, so I have my Finder, right? And I click on that, and then over here I have all the different folder options. But I have Google Drive on here because I linked it up to my computer.
So how do I get Google Drive over there?
You know, I'm not sure. I linked it up to my computer something like a year or so ago. So I'm not sure what that step was. But the downside is that, so I have 23 gigs in here, and so that's kind of one of the downfalls, because I have that share folder, and I have some other resources that are in there, and that also takes up on my overall system storage because it's linked up there. So I can't, I have to get rid of some. So anyway, that's one of the downsides to having it linked, is that it also takes up space on your actual computer file. but that way you can at least go through and have access to all the books.
Okay. Okay.
Well, so was that helpful?
Yes, yes. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need to sit down and now look at it, and and you need to hurry up with the workbook. So hurry up.
Yeah. So, well, I have. If you're ever interested, so there's been. So next week, I'm consulting at a local school over here. I have the workshop at Harvard the week after. So there's about 2 other districts that are looking into funding to have me go over to them. So if you're interested in doing that, that's one way to help with that, is to have me go to the school and like present, and also go to also go through the workshop method. So the reason why I'm making the workbook is because I want to have all the information in there, but you still need
Right.
somebody who knows how to use all that can get other teachers excited and show all the different capabilities of it, and then also to walk you through the different steps. So that's one of the biggest things, is to kind of have that step. So if you're interested, I can do that, and let me know, and we can talk about that a little bit more. And but yeah, that's one of the cool things about doing that, and that's one reason why I'm putting so much into the workbook, is to make that process easier, and going through.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, let me know if you have any other questions. So you have my website, you have my Twitter, and yeah, I'll help you all the way through.
Thank you very much.
No problem. You have a good day.
You too.
All right. I'll see you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.